Welcome to News Mongolia, where we bring you the latest stories and updates from across the nation and beyond. I'm Batsir Namshar. Our top stories for News Mongolia. Memorandum of Understanding between foreign ministries of Mongolia and Oman signed. Australia signs partnership agreement with the Asia Foundation to enhance women's climate resilience in Mongolia. The 57th Special Corps soldiers landed in Mongolia in August 1937. For the news, stay tuned. The Minister of Foreign Affairs of Mongolia, Batsitsig Batmunk, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Sultanate of Oman, Badr bin Hamad Al Busaidi, held official talks on August 26, 2024. According to Montsame news agency, at the official talks, Foreign Minister Batsitsig underlined that the official visit of the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Sultanate of Oman to Mongolia is the first high-level visit from the country to Mongolia since the establishment of diplomatic relations between the two countries in 1992.
Foreign Minister Batsitsig stated that Mongolia seeks to establish closer relations with the Gulf countries and develop long-term strong partnerships and cooperation. The two sides acknowledged that Mongolia and the Sultanate of Oman have had friendly political relations over the 32 years of diplomatic relations and the emerging need to elevate the bilateral relations and cooperation between the two countries to a new level. The two sides agreed to bolster trade and economic cooperation, develop mutually beneficial cooperation in mining, energy, education, environment, and agricultural sectors, studying possibilities for implementing joint projects and programs. Moreover, the two parties emphasized further cooperation within the framework of international organizations. Furthermore, the two sides agreed to establish an intergovernmental agreement on visa exemption for owners of diplomatic official and special passports as first step in expanding cooperation in tourism and strengthening people's exchanges. With further cooperation in extending visa exemption for all types of passport owners with another intergovernmental agreement. After the official talks, the foreign ministers signed the Memorandum of Understanding on the consultative meeting between the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Mongolia and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Sultanate of Oman. Foreign Minister Batsitsig and Foreign Minister Badr bin Hamad Al Busaidi held a press briefing.
According to the Aid Protocol established by Mongolia and the Soviet Union in 1936, Soviet troops with 52 planes landed in Baintum in 1937. It was the 57th Special Corps of the Soviet Union which played the most important role in the victory of the Mongolian and Soviet allied armies in the Khalkh River War. This broadcast series, dedicated to the 85th anniversary of the Battle of Khalkh River, focuses on the history of the 57th Special Corps. Soviet troops entered Mongolia 4 times in 1921, 1937, 1945 and 1967. In 1937, based on the Protocol of Mutual Assistance, the soldiers of the Soviet Union decided to station themselves in the Republic of Mongolia. At that time, our government officials were displeased with this deployment. However, the Soviet Union imposed conditions that the Allies could not resist. First, the Mongolian People's Revolutionary Army could not defeat the Japanese and Chinese forces. At that time, the Mongolian People's Revolutionary Army consisted of 17,000 to 18,000 men. Secondly, the Soviet Union warned Mongolia that if they refused entry for the Soviet Union troops, they would suffer losses equivalent to the Great Repression. Thus, under the influence of many geopolitical and political factors, in August 1937, the soldiers of the 57th Special Corps of the Soviet Union entered Mongolia.
Due to reasons mentioned previously by the decision from the Commissar of the People's Revolutionary Army, the Soviet Union's 57th Special Corps entered and became one of the Republic of Mongolia's troops in 19th of July 1939, which led to the establishing a headquarters at Khalkh River.
During the war, there were many disputes between citizens in addition to the People's Revolutionary Army's lack of skill and discipline, which made the reason for admitting defeat, 28th of May 1939. After this incident, they appointed Georgy Zhukov on the 19th of June of the same year. When he took the position of becoming the corps leader, there were approximately 32,000 soldiers in the corps. After becoming the leader, he led the way to victory by making major changes in training the soldiers. At the time of the war, Zhukov was considered a suitable individual for leading the 57th Special Corps and stepping towards victory, as he knew and had the experience of both the developed tactics of the Soviet Union and the mechanical weapons and the cavalry of Mongolia. Appointing the 57th Special Corps to the first group of the Republic of Mongolia's army, after they first entered on July 19, 1939, was the first step towards gaining victory. During the peak of the war, the 57th Special Corps had the 57,000 soldiers with over 1,000 tanks and over 1,000 aircrafts. It was a crucial element in dominating both the land and the airways in the last battle of Halk River. You're watching News Mongolia. Now let's take a look at Mongolia's current affairs.
The Australian Embassy and the Asia Foundation signed a partnership agreement on August 26, 2024 to strengthen women's networks and movements for climate justice, enhance women's economic empowerment, and increase women's access to green financing. Signing on behalf of the Australian government was Ms. Katie Smith, Australian Ambassador to Mongolia, while Ms. Sarah Taylor, country representative, signed on behalf of the Asia Foundation in Mongolia. The Australian government is making a contribution of 2.5 million Australian dollars to the Women's Climate Resilience Project, which will commence on August 2024 for the duration of the next 5 years. Mongolia is among the most vulnerable countries to climate change, and the frequency of climate-induced natural disasters like droughts, snowstorms, dust storms, and flash flooding is increasing. Women, particularly those in rural areas and Ulaanbaatar's Ger districts, have been disproportionately affected by the resulting climate-induced migration, economic insecurity, and health risks. The WCR project will engage the Asia Foundation's women business centers to address climate-induced migration challenges, continue and expand a carbon credit incentive mechanism targeting women-led households and women entrepreneurs, and enhance women's leadership and voices in climate action and green sustainable financing.
Now let's take a look at the currency exchange rates provided by Mongol Bank. Now let's take a look at international news from our partner agencies. Canada announced Monday it's launching a 100% tariff on imports of Chinese-made electric vehicles, matching U.S. tariffs imposed over what Western governments say are China's subsidies that give its industry an unfair advantage.
So today, we're taking yet another step.
The announcement came after encouragement by U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan during a meeting with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and cabinet ministers Sunday. Sullivan is making his first visit to Beijing on Tuesday.
Over the summer, we saw inflation return to normal, and now interest rates are coming down. Our books are the envy of the developed world. Within the G7, Canada has the lowest deficit and the lowest net government debt. And in terms of foreign investment, we are top 3 in the world and number 1 per capita in the G20 for foreign direct investment. Companies around the world are taking an interest in investing in Canada to make things in Canada more than just about any other country.
Trudeau said Canada also will impose 25% tariff on Chinese steel and aluminium. Actors like China have chosen to give themselves an unfair advantage in the global marketplace, he added.
We will be introducing. See, because of our government's choices and the hard work of hundreds of thousands of Canadian auto workers, we are transforming Canada's automotive sector to be a global leader in building the vehicles of tomorrow. But actors like China have chosen to give themselves an unfair advantage in the global marketplace, compromising the security of our critical industries and displacing dedicated Canadian autos and metal workers. So we're taking action to address that. We actually spent some time talking about that and many other geopolitical issues last night with Jake Sullivan, the U.S. National Security Advisor.
There was no immediate response from China. The only Chinese-made EVs currently imported into Canada from Tesla, made at the company's Shanghai factory, though the U.S. company could avoid the tariff by switching to supplying Canada from factories in the U.S. or Germany. Chinese brands are not yet a player in Canada. However, Chinese EV giant BYD established a Canadian corporate entity last spring and has indicated it intends to try and enter the Canadian market as early as next year. Chinese officials are likely to raise concerns about the American tariffs with Sullivan, as Beijing continues to repair its economy after the COVID-19 pandemic. U.S. President Joe Biden in May slapped major new tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles, advanced batteries, solar cells, steel, aluminum, and medical equipment.
Canada's automotive sector to be a global leader in building.
Now let's take a look at the weather forecast for Mongolia and the world major cities. Well, that's all for today. Thank you for staying with us. We'll see you tomorrow with more news and updates. Goodbye.